Hey everybody, this is Richard Sachs. I'm your host on Lost Arts Radio. We have some exciting guests that are very relevant to what's going on around us in the world right now. This is being recorded for those of you who are looking at it later on either the 14th or the 15th of August, depending on what part of the world that you may be in. 14th in America and those latitudes and the longitudes, sorry. And then Australia and New Zealand, the 15th of August. And what we've really been looking at here a lot lately, and maybe you have too, is the censorship that's going on all over the world right now, and the really ramping up right now. And the U.S. government has yet to do anything in response to it that's visible. I know that Q has been saying a lot is happening and that everything's being taken care of, and all the officials that look like they're doing nothing are really not doing nothing, and it's all going to be great. And I don't see that as accurate right now. And it looks like, the president has had a circle of people around him since he got in, whose job is specifically to keep him in the dark as much as possible, make sure he doesn't get accurate information on anything important, and they're trying to get rid of him before he does. This is in America, but it affects the whole world. And the reason it affects the whole world is that there's at least some memory of the idea that in America that it was supposed to be about individual freedom, and that the government was only there to protect that. That was its whole, reason for being. And even though that's not going on right now in the U.S., there are people who remember it and are trying to restore it. But it's not happening yet about the censorship. And I'm going to be talking carefully today in this discussion with our guests, because the AI is in place now. And you can tell from the people that are getting deleted off the internet and some on the mainstream that there are keywords that if you even mention them, even if you're not in favor of them, you're going to be gone, sometimes in midstream. And it's important that everybody knows that. So I have this problem of just immediately saying whatever I'm thinking, and I'm going to try to recover from that at least partly and speak somewhat generically. And yet, if you guys are paying attention, hopefully you'll get the point. So our guests are Brendan Murphy and Aimee Devlin, two of the, in my opinion, really heroic figures in this whole adventures, who are beginning a new internet. It's a social media platform, but I think we have to explain it's got a lot more features than you might be aware of. And I think we can say the name of it. I'm sure it's not programmed into AI yet, and it's called Global Freedom Movement. You should look it up on the internet, and we're going to get a lot of detail about it, find out about all of the features that are being put in it. But before that, I want to, as usual, include people in this discussion who are not up to date on all this stuff. I want to, even if they never heard of a social media, they don't even know what that is. They don't know there's any censorship. They don't know what's going on. They've been educated thoroughly, and they're watching the regular newspapers or TV, so they have no idea what's going on. And we want to go back for both Brendan and Aimee to where they came from before they got interested in all this stuff. And I think this is going to go by in 5 minutes for whatever time we take. So welcome to both of you, and thanks a lot for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Richard.
It's fun. So Aimee's time this morning, Australia time, tonight in U.S. time, is more limited than Brendan's right at the moment. So do you want to start, Aimee, and just get back before you were involved in all this stuff, and to whatever time you want to go back to, and give us some background how you came to where you are now, and then we'll let Brendan do that, and then we'll talk about what you're doing.
Of course. So I'm someone who has, from a very young age, always been sort of interested in I was always a curious person. I was probably one of those children who annoyed their parents by asking too many questions about life and what's going on. And,
I remember doing that a lot. Yeah. My mother used to leave the dinner table and go have a headache for a few days. I totally understand.
Probably mine as well. Yeah, I'm so curious. I'm always just wanting to know what's happening and why. And I've always been like that for as long as I can remember. So one of the earliest sort of turning points, or, I guess like awakening points for me, was when I was 8 years old. I read two books about health. One of them was called, excuse me, The Cancer Cure That Worked, which was about the Rife machine. And the other one was about eating meat and eating the vegetarian diet and all that kind of stuff. And so I read those books when I was 8, and then just from there I had a desire to figure out, what's the healthiest way that we could be, what are we here to do? All of those kind of burning life questions. That's what's fueled me throughout my entire life, really. So I've studied nutrition, massage, a whole lot of different different modalities and that kind of thing. But I'm not someone who stays on one track. I'm sort of more of a, okay, I'll find this out, then I'll find that out, and bring it all together and have a multi-dimensional sort of.
So you're putting a bigger picture together so that you can understand what the whole thing means, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's sort of in 2014, Brendan and I. It was an interesting sort of turn of events that created Global Freedom Movement, which was in March of 2014. So we found out that in Australia here, the original inhabitants of this land are not treated very well. And so we went to the centre of Australia to see what was going on there, and we wanted to understand a little bit more about the amazing people that lived here before we did.
Is that kind of like a semi-desert wilderness environment? And that's the impression that I have in my mind.
It is, red dust, pieces of scrub, just desert basically. But what was going on there? We found that there was, segregation of the different races, and certain people were allowed things whereas other people weren't, and we were just appalled at what we saw when we traveled there. And from that point, it was a big sort of another turning point for the two of us.
You went there on a trip together? Yeah,
with some friends.
How long ago was that? When was that about?
Around about 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
2014 or 2013, something like that.
Yeah, March of 2014.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
how many groups were being segregated? Was it just two main ones, or more than that?
It's the original Australians, which people here call the Aboriginals. We don't like that, and everyone else basically.
So on the surface, it was black and white being segregated, separated.
Well, how does the black and white, superimpose on Aboriginals and everybody else? Is that just another way of describing the two groups? Aboriginals are called black or not?
Well, essentially, yeah. So white culture was separated from the original culture, the blackfellas, in other words.
Okay, so are the original people still living kind of according to tribal traditions, and are they nomadic, or have they been trapped in towns and kind of forced to eat poison food and the usual thing that they do to people like that?
That's what they've done.
It's a bit of a cross. It's a bit of all of the above, I think, really. Like, we saw some pretty awkward and strange living situations, and there's like this sort of, the superimposed white way of life has kind of, in some people in some places it's been partially adopted, in the other places it's been fully adopted. But it's kind of like a lot of the original people are out there seem to be kind of stuck in this no man's land between the two. So it's like this hybrid lifestyle that doesn't. It's not easy. It's not an easy way to live out.
They were nomadic originally, right? And they would they would follow food supplies and weather and stuff like that according to nature. And then if you trap them in a place where you can't wander around and do anything, you're basically stuck in a little house eating crackers or something like that instead of doing your usual lifestyle.
Yeah. We've basically decimated their culture.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah. With that particular culture has a real connection to land, and their spirit revolves around that, so and all their dreaming, and that's what brings these people to life.
But it's not like a set little piece of land, though. It's moving over big areas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but their job is to look after the land. So and they're now unable to do that because mining companies have come in and coerced them into giving away their land and that kind of thing, and then put tribes at war with one another, and there's all sorts of ways.
Kind of a similar thing that they're doing to everybody in a different way.
Pretty much, yeah.
What are they mining for?
Iron ore is a big one because of the red dirt. Yeah, and gold as well. There's huge gold mines out there. Yeah. And what they've tried to do now, and this was, we spent a few years trying to get the message out there about this, that there's little tiny communities, there might be 50 people in one area and 100 over here, but they want to stay there. They don't want to come live in a city, and but they're trying to shut those places down. And
so, what kind of places are those? Like a bunch of houses together, or
they're more like shanties, like really basic, tin kind of sheds put together.
Pieces of material to keep the rain off and stuff. And
yeah. There's a movie called Utopia, which is a really good insight into that way of life, and how the government has got involved in messing up these communities so that they can then take them over.
Did you guys ever see the movie called Avatar?
Yeah.
It sounds like what you're describing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Right, because they found these people who were Aboriginal on that, whatever that planet was, and there was a lot of rich something underneath, unobtainium, I think it was, special material, and their whole project was to get rid of the people off the land.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically what's happening here.
Exactly what's happening.
So you stayed for how long?
We were only there for a few weeks.
I think
maybe
2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. But it had a massive impact on us, and we came back and we realised just the what's the word for it? Like how everyone who's a white Australian has just been tricked into thinking many things about the original inhabitants of this land. Because, we're told stories and that kind of thing, and we expect them to be a certain way and, live like we do. And
right. Well, aren't you told that they're kind of an inferior race, and that we're trying to bring them into the modern world where you have science and vaccines and all that kind of, really.
Yeah,
we're trying to civilize the savages.
Exactly.
That's been the mythology from day one, I think, probably around the world. And the reality is that the original people of Australia probably came up with the first farming that we know about on the planet. They've done so many amazing things. They were the first to do so many amazing things, and all of that history has been wiped out and suppressed. The knowledge they have is actually... It's
not being taught in school, in other words, at all.
Exactly. No. We want the colonists' version of history taught in school.
Right. We're coming in and saving people from their, lack of modern understanding of everything.
And the Aborigines, they chose to have a minimalist kind of subsistence kind of way of living. It was their choice to not go for like the technological path. They weren't interested in it. They were interested in what was inside of them, like the spirit. And that was why the Egyptians used to actually sail out to Australia to learn from the originals and take their spiritual knowledge back home. And there's hieroglyphs carved into rocks that you can see the story of these people who came out here.
Yeah, and there was a lot more travel around the world in earlier times than we're told as well. I mean, I'm in Arizona. They discovered a huge cache of ancient Egyptian artifacts and these gold statues and everything not far from where I live. So they banned any entry into the area, and you go there and you get shot with people with machine guns now. So they are kind of interested in maintaining this version of history that you mentioned.
Yeah, the synthetic version. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Right.
And we are focused on bringing it out.
Yeah, it's exciting. So, well, what you've described applies to both of you a lot. Is there anything different than that you would add into the whole picture, Brennan, that from your approach to it from the past?
Well, I came from a more metaphysical kind of point of orientation. So that was my entry into the hero's journey, I guess you'd say. So I was probably about 19. I read a book called The Holographic Universe at my younger brother's suggestion, and that just blew my mind. So ever since then, I've been fixated or obsessed with understanding what's going on, understanding what we are, what's consciousness, what's reality, what's happening on this planet and off this planet. And there's been no looking back. This is what I've done for the last 15 years.
That exploration, you mean?
Basically, yeah.
Okay. So when you were done with your 3 weeks over there, what happened after that?
Well, that was how Global Freedom Movement was created. That was the idea for it. The term for it came about through us sitting in a room with two of our good mates. That was the name we came up with for this vehicle that was going to go out into the outback and find out what's going on. And when we came back, that was it. That was Global Freedom Movement. So ever since, that's been our news outlet, our education activist platform. And it's only in the last 2 months that we've developed Truth, which is the social network. Okay,
so you still have the focus that, I mean, you're trying to help, I think, at least two groups of people, right? The ones that have been brought into this fake education and this modern unconsciousness. I was about to say modern consciousness, but it's really the opposite. And the other group, which is the ones that you visited, representing indigenous tribes all over the world, and people who are still somewhat in contact with nature and themselves. So, but those people aren't really spending all their time on the internet, right? So how do you want to help them? You want to help them by teaching the modern people not to destroy them, or what do you see the best way to help them?
I think that's a good starting point.
yeah, I think it is. You're right. It's a combination of the two, you know, like without the awareness of what's happening, if we didn't go to the outback and see for ourselves, we would have believed what we had heard, you know, even though we are both people who care about, you know, different types of people around the world and cultures and that kind of thing. We didn't understand the extent that it was happening, you know, and so that awareness brought us to the point where we said, okay, we need to tell other people about that, and I guess that's the core belief of what we do at Global Movement. It's educating people, bringing it into their awareness what's happening in the world, so that we can create the solutions to that, and then as a flow-on effect from that, the cultures that are being decimated, the people that are being genocided, you know, that will stop, because, you know, who's going to keep doing that if you know it's wrong? Unless you're, you know, obviously some people do keep doing that, and that's another part of it. But
but they need the numbers. They need the numbers of the masses to allow it. And so what we want to do is create a situation where, obviously, what you're doing, you know, we want critical mass for the masses to wake up and basically say, no, this isn't right. We can't do this anymore.
Yeah. In other words, not just be hypnotized by television and the regular newspapers and the fake education and fake science and the entertainment stuff and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And connecting with conscience as well, you know, because I don't know about everyone else, but for me, if I learn something and I understand that it's not right, then I choose something else. So it's about living with conscience and understanding that, you know, we can all live in a better world if we all live with conscience.
Well, the other thing too is that you're probably got to a point where you realized you're connected to everybody else. So if you hurt somebody else, you're just hurting yourself, really. Not metaphysically, but really, practically.
Yeah.
And that's what when you spend a lot of time doing your due diligence, like you have, and like we have, you understand that every choice has a consequence, and there's flow-on effects, and we're all connected in this web of life, and we have to to be responsible stewards of humanity and the planet. There are certain things we really need to not do, and certain things that we should do, and it's conscience and it's pragmatism as well, because ultimately what the synthetic not white, but the synthetic kind of like colonialist, technocratic consciousness that's infected humanity. That's what's us down off the edge of the cliff,
We have to, like you were just doing, we have to be careful about terminology, because the people that are in charge, that are intentionally trying to make everybody hate each other, and to destroy life on this planet, which is the end goal, in my opinion. Right now, they're seeing it as a great See, they like to masquerade as being really benevolent and helpful. And so they're saying, look at these evil white people. They're really the devils here. And they're trying to incite massive racism worldwide against people who don't have dark enough skin, which is just as bad as being against people with really dark skin or with red or yellow or brown skin or anything like that. The whole thing is, all the humans most likely started in southern Africa, and then they migrated to different parts of the world. And when they did that, after a while, their skin adapted to the sunlight available and the different diets and stuff, and they started being seen as different so-called races. But really, there was only one race, and all the humans started from there, most likely in Africa. And it's just being played on by the global rulers right now to try to get the people who have darker skin to say, even if I was born 10 years ago, I'm the victim, and these white people are the ones trying to kill me, so I have to kill them before they kill me. And it's just a continuation of the same, really self-destructive consciousness, right?
Yeah, you're right. And I think that the reason they keep adding fuel, throwing fuel on that fire, is because it's such a great distraction mechanism from the real issues. And it's so obvious that it's just this divide and conquer strategy that keeps everyone looking over here when they need to look at here at the real predators.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, even the intentional destroyers are being fooled to think that they're going to get anywhere that way. The ones at the very top, it's not about money. It's a religion for them. And they're worshiping a dark power that enjoys evil for its own sake. And most normal people can't even imagine that would happen. They can kind of imagine it would be done for money, but that's only the middle levels. The top ones already own the money system. They don't need more money. But they're trying to do what looks to me like a ritual sacrifice, with the idea that if you kill something innocent, you get spiritual benefit if you do it exactly right. It's totally bizarre, but they really believe it. And they think, well, it's popular to kill an animal or something like that. Many scriptures say how wonderful that is and how it makes God happy if you do it right. But they're thinking, what's one animal or 1,000 animals? That's nothing. Even a virgin or something. I mean, why stop there? What would be the best sacrifice, since that works so well? And they're saying, the whole biosphere. And I think that's where it's coming from.
It's definitely it's something very, very, once you get to those higher levels, it's power, it's control, and quite possibly some very, very dark ecocidal kind of agendas there. And it's, we can stop it at the level of the masses. When we have critical mass consciousness, we can stop it. We don't need to be killing people at the top of the pyramid or anything like that. We can stop it by sheer.
Because if we fall for that, it's like in Star Wars where they wanted Luke to kill his father, and he was wise and said, no, I'm not going to do it. And then it turned out that led to saving the galaxy. And I think it's the same thing happening now. And those people who are playing the roles of the top level destroyers, they're hypnotized into thinking that's who they are. But that's not who they are. They're exactly the same as we are. And if we get strong enough, like you said, and I don't think it would take that many even compared to the world population, I think that power is so strong, we could start causing defections without saying a word. Even from the upper levels.
I think you're right. There was a study done not that long ago where they found something like 10 or 11% of a population shifting their belief is enough to create a chain reaction, and like the Maharishi kind of effect, and it will shift the mass. Right.
It's like a tipping point of some kind, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be like 51% or something.
No, not at all. Nowhere near it, by my thinking anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right, because the chaotic negative thinking is relatively weak compared to a really coherent, light-connected consciousness.
Yeah.
Not a belief system, but really doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Acting in alignment with that awareness that you've spent years cultivating, and then actually embodying it and grounding it into day-to-day choices, living choices, that's the key.
So I think in a way right now, with the ramping up of the control systems and the destruction and the censorship, it's kind of a time question. Can we help open this up, this new consciousness, old consciousness really? Can we do that before they get too much further with the negative side? And I think so, as long as we don't believe it's impossible.
Exactly. So our job, like everybody's job really, is to at least hold the possibility that can be done.
Right.
Because if we at least entertain it, we can act in that direction, and we can be powerful and potent. But if we've already accepted the belief that it can't be done, and it's a fait accompli, it's a done deal, well, I mean, what does that actually achieve? It's completely self-destructive, needless.
That's where we put our power into limiting ourselves, right? And it's a lot of power.
Yes.
So, but it's not so obvious always what we believe, because we have memorized certain things. I believe this and this and this, and this is what kind of person I am and everything. But subconsciously, what you really believe might be the opposite. And you can kind of tell that by how you feel about things. If you start really paying attention, you find out what you believe.
That's right. And you'll find out from how people live what they really believe, because they act out their core beliefs.
Yeah, and they might be telling you something totally different. I mean, I've experienced some really serious attacks from people who were totally devoted to many different religions. I mean, one of them, I was driving around in a foreign city, and he had to stop 5 times a day to go into this certain kind of church and, do whatever he was doing and pray and do all this stuff the right way. Then he came back and stole everything from everybody. So the internal part is different, kind of, right? Hopefully.
Don't forget, some people are just assholes.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a technical term for it. But even those people are victims, because they don't really know who they are. They think they're this really bad character, and underneath, they're as amazing as we are. And I think rather than trying to debate those things with anybody like that, if you become it yourself, it's contagious. You can affect anybody without saying a word. So from when you decided that you wanted to help these two sections of society, how did that become a technical project of setting up the global freedom movement? And what did you already know tech stuff, or did you have to start learning how you'd put it together, or what happened?
One of us did.
Okay.
I'm the tech half.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so it's a delicate kind of situation here in Australia, because we've got so many different tribes, and some of them have been taken over by governments, and some of them, they've tried to pit everyone against each other, and it's been working. And so as a white human, it's sometimes challenging to find the right people to speak with, and because these people have been hoodwinked over and over and over again, and the trust is very, it's gone basically. So But there are some tribes. There's a name, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called Wiritjin, which means black fella, white fella dreaming, which means that we all have to come together in order to find the solution.
Those guys get it. They get it. The original people get it. They understand.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
You could almost learn everything from that little concept.
Yeah, that one word, Wiritjin.
At least enough for world peace, and that's a good starting point, right?
Yeah. And so that was a big part for us. So we realized, so a lot of people don't understand how spiritual that culture is. And we have something that Daniel Quinn called the great forgetting. You know, we have no idea where we came from. And
our education has worked really well. It's been very successful.
Yeah. And so together we can kind of start to understand how we can move forward. So that's where we began, and we decided we would do a podcast and bring people on to talk about different perspectives. And a lot of the first guests that we had Steve and Evan Strong, who are a father-son duo who talk about the dreaming and that kind of thing, and Australian archaeology, and they're not in the system as such. They're very disliked by because of what they're teaching. But yeah, that was the beginning. We started with a podcast, and we're both writers as well. So, you know, we've written a lot of articles over the years as well. And yeah, it's just got to the point now where we've created this social media platform because we recognize that, you know, over the last 4 years, we built a huge Facebook following, and we had people who really loved what we do because we're just two humans who decided, okay, let's do something, you know, and those people, we recognize that then it's not a real community. We're not necessarily actually doing what needs to be done. And the internet's created this amazing ability for us to connect with people, and that's just incredible. We can share information like that, but it's not necessarily happening in the real world in the way that it needs to happen. So we wanted to create like a joint in-world on the internet kind of situation where we could build a real community of world changers and people who are doing things on the ground as well as not just sitting at the computer kind of thing. Right.
So is this kind of like a new Facebook type thing, or what are the similarities and differences?
Yeah, it is. It is it's our alternative to Facebook, I guess you'd say. So it's got a bunch of very similar aspects. I mean, you do your posts. There's groups. There's topics. So there's sort of some similarities. You know, it's a much better platform as far as actually like the level of intimacy involved and the way that it creates this kind of like, you really feel it if you shift from Facebook into there and then back again. You really feel the difference that in truth there's this kind of like nice little nurturing container where it's a lot more like supportive and it's less chaotic and it's just a bit more kind of humanizing, I think, on some level.
Yeah. The intention behind it is to connect people together. So it connects members via their location, their geographical location. So they can meet other members who are in Canada if they live in Canada and they want to meet them in person. Right. It also connects people via their expertise. So if they're a writer or a podcast host, they can meet other podcast hosts and, you know, create something together. And it also connects people via their mutual interests. So if people are really interested in health and wellness or homeopathy or any particular interest, it will connect them via that as well. So there's a number of different ways that people are connected. It's not just like on Facebook where it says, oh, you and Brendan are friends, so maybe you'll be friends with Richard.
Right, because Brendan knows Richard, right?
Yeah, but I might not have anything in common with Richard. It's just except Brendan.
Yeah. Okay, so now as it gets bigger, as let's see, is this one part of Global Freedom Movement, the social media platform? And if so, what do you call it?
Truth.
Okay, so as Truth gets bigger, and that's TROOTH, right? Okay, so as Truth gets bigger and spreads, which is exactly what you want to do, then can you keep it personal like that? Or does it you have to program basically like a positive kind of AI or something to keep that spirit behind how it's managed or something, right?
Well, the algorithm in there is designed to connect people, whereas on Facebook it's designed to stifle people.
So it's very successful, right?
So the intention behind it's very different. And so far it's doing a wonderful job of connecting people, and that's great. And so what we're encouraging is for different community groups. We haven't gone into the story of our Facebook censorship, but it's happening to a lot of people.
Yeah, I do want to hear about that, because it's part of the reason that gave you the motivation to do this, right?
Yeah. Well, do you want to go into that?
No, finish your thought.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're close to having to do your other appointment, right? I'm watching the clock, and you've got 3 minutes. So
3 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So if you want to say something in that time that you've got about that experience, and then Brendan can continue it.
Yeah. So we've got groups in Truth, and what we've noticed since we've created Truth, and so we're sort of playing in both worlds at the moment. We both have Facebook still, and we're putting more of our energy now into Truth. But what we've noticed in spending time at both is that there's way less distraction. We're there for a purpose, right? So we're there to learn from other people. We're there to share our wisdom with other people as well. So that intention is there. And also it's something that I've lost my train of thought. It's
well, it's not, Aimee, it's not just the difference. It's your experience of how you were censored on Facebook, and then how that gave you motives to know what you wanted to put into Truth.
That's it. So
I'm asking you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, on Truth, it's creating a space where we're actually there for a purpose, and that purpose is community building and sharing and uniting all the people around the world who have similar desires and visions and dreams, that they want to create difference in the world. Whereas on Facebook, there's many different communities that we've come into contact with over the years, many pages that have had millions and millions of likes, right? But there's a different way of being around that. So being a Facebook page owner, the desire is to get as many likes as possible. So your intention is to do that, and you'll do that in many different ways. It's not necessarily actually creating any change in the world. Whereas when you're coming over to Truth, we're all there, where you can cultivate your own community there. And it's about what can we do to help each other, to help the world. It's about uniting. It's not about, the superficiality of, I have 6 million likes on my page, because that doesn't exist there. It's what can you build? Well,
too, I mean, I don't know if it's on YouTube or Facebook, but that I'm thinking of, but some of the biggest ones with, billions of views are doing things like pictures of their pets, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because they're just trying to appeal to everybody with something that no one could possibly disagree with.
Yeah. And we don't want to be like that. We never have wanted to be like that.
We never have been like that. And that's why I think our community is different what a lot of people have created. Because there's all these different tactics that people have been using to create a large Facebook page, like, connecting with 10 other pages and just sharing each other's stuff on the pages, so that you're continually, getting a lot of eyeballs on your content. Yeah. But what is that actually achieving,
Well, it's losing all the interesting qualities of it, really.
Yeah. And it's not, I don't know, there's just nothing in that for me. It's empty.
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of, on Facebook, you're competing for people's attention, you're competing for popularity. That's not the kind of space that the Truth is. Truth is, hey, we're all kind of here on the same page to do a job. We're all on this mission together, and let's share and connect, rather than trying to be somehow stand out from the crowd and get you're not competing to accumulate things there. That's the kind of environment Facebook is.
Yeah. So I know you're about to leave, Aimee, but basically you're saying even though you're both contributing in a way the same thing, your specialty has been the technical side, right?
Yeah, I'm the technical side.
Like in designing how it would work on the computer and the internet and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've built our website and do all the email marketing and, you know, a lot of all that tech.
So how did you learn to do all that stuff?
I just taught myself. I'm that kind of person. So
yeah, it's not like you had 100 classes in it in school or something.
No, if I want something bad enough, I'll learn how to do it. It's just my personality. Yeah.
Yeah, school doesn't really have a monopoly on learning, right?
No.
You don't learn to tie your shoes at school, do you?
No, actually, it makes it harder to learn anything. By the time people get out, I notice that the PhDs and medical doctors, most of them are the most difficult ones to get through to because they're so sure there's nothing they don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's nothing that you do know unless you have the degree that they do.
Definitely.
Yeah. And it's in their best interest to not ignore the, you know, $300,000 debt that they have to tell them that that's what they have to do for the rest of their life.
Yeah, exactly right.
You know.
So, well, do you want to just do your other appointment and see if you make it back in time to talk to me?
I'll pop back in and I'll leave you with Brendan and you can talk about all sorts of different things.
As long as we're not getting into tech stuff.
No.
Leave the tech stuff till later.
I'll do that later. So come back as soon as you can.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
All right.
We'll wait for you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Okay, so Brendan, that's the technical side. And how did you figure out how that was going to fit together and what part you wanted to focus on?
As far as truth is concerned?
Well, for the moment, yeah, then we'll get into the other stuff.
Well, my interest, I mean, obviously, you know, I don't really do the tech stuff. I'm more of a get in front of the camera kind of guy or write an article kind of guy. You know, I'd much prefer to do that kind of thing. So I've never been drawn to that side of it. I'm just interested in the kind of, you know, I'll give suggestions and whatever it is, but Aimee really understands. We're on the same page as far as creating an environment and a culture. That's something that we're both we've just got a bit of a knack for creating culture, which is something we've realized recently. Even though we've been doing it for over 4 years, someone pointed out to us that that's actually what we do. And I was like, oh, yeah, wow, we just do that. I don't know why it's kind of an instinctive thing.
You're referring to creating a new culture?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're all working on, right? Like actually creating a new culture, but in the attempt to do that on a mass scale, what we seem to instinctively do, Aimee and I, is create these like subcultures that then have a ripple effect outwards.
Right, and because it's online, theoretically, it could expand without any limit.
Yeah,
just have participants all over the world, lots of them.
And that's it. I mean, we just want to reach whatever the number is that we need to reach to really make the shift and the transition that we're all gunning for. You know, that's the main thing. So the more people that we feel like, the more people we can reach and be seen and heard by, the ultimately that's going to be a positive in the end, in the long run. Right.
Could you say, if you had to, what the bottom line message that you want people to absorb is from truth?
Well, I guess what it stands for, really. I mean, we created it as a direct response to being censored. We had our Facebook page shut down in June, and so did dozens of other people.
Oh, yeah. You didn't say why. I mean, what was the excuse and what led up to that?
What Facebook... our page was deleted in the morning, early in the morning while we were asleep.
Uh-huh.
There was no forewarning or anything like that.
How long ago was that? When was that?
It was mid to late June, I think.
But it was 2018, right?
This year, yeah.
It was part of this new ramping up of censorship.
There's been a huge purge of Facebook pages, massive purge, and
it's amazing. Yeah, thousands of pages.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, we have a list we wrote an article where we have a list of about 80 or 90 pages, but there's no way that's anywhere near the actual real number. I mean, that's just the ones we know about. Mainly from the truth community itself. So that was our response. Was
So what was the excuse why you got shut out?
They sent a generic message, something along the line.
You probably violated community standards or something, right?
I think that came up. That was mentioned, community standards. And,
no one's ever seen them anywhere, but you definitely broke the rules.
No, they're just invoked when they need to erase somebody, I think.
Yeah. What's your guess about why you got kicked out? What did you do that was the worst?
It's hard for us because we're kind of a broad spectrum thing. Like, we're not a natural health page, so we're posting everything. Like, we're posting about the child trafficking, pedogate, all the way down to big pharma and whatever. Like, there's nothing that we won't touch. So really, we've probably ticked every box possible to get kicked out.
Yeah, it sounds like you did everything that was really evil. So You're talking about world events and trying to let people know what they are and what they mean, basically, something like that.
Yeah, and at no point in time do we ever really agree with the official narrative. So it's sort of like you're always at loggerheads with this system, and eventually it's going to come down on you.
So you got the government seal of approval, and they really agree that you're doing a good job.
Yeah, apparently. So thanks, government.
Yeah, that's neat. Actually, government is pretty much indistinguishable from these global corporations now. And they're all incorporated anyway. It seems like every division of government is actually a corporation at this point.
Yeah,
even courts and schools and everything.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The kleptocracy has taken over. It's just corporate everything, really.
Yeah. It's what Mussolini called corporatism, but in World War II, but he had no idea what it would actually become, I don't think.
Who could have pictured where it would end up? It's just at the point of...
It's too unbelievable. I mean, most science fiction movies seem a lot more realistic than where we are right now.
I know. And we keep seeing in these movies this dystopian future being projected out. And it's like most of the elements, or a lot of the elements, we're actually living right now.
Right. It makes you wonder what the next chapter is.
Yeah, I'm scared to wonder what that might be.
So I know truth is only one part of your focus right now in the whole bigger project, but on a everyday basis, or at least every week or something, what are you putting into this truth part of it as your part?
I think the main thing is we try to be as present as possible. So we're then trying to nourish and nurture and interact with people and support people and show like we're actually interested, and we're really there to offer a platform that will help people's message be seen, as opposed to shutting it down and suppressing and censoring it. So that's what it stands for. That's what the Truth platform really stands for. Is it's up yours to the censorship machine that's currently stamping its boot down on the face of humanity, and we're saying, well, no, we'll give you a place where you can be seen and heard.
Have you looked at, as you expand, are there things you have to do to protect yourself from being censored within your platform? I mean, what's the issue with that? You know what I mean, right? I mean, you're outside the system, right? But still, if they see you, if they see truth as a threat with two O's in it, are there defensive things that you have to foresee, or are you just going to wait and kind of see what you need to learn about it as it comes up?
Yeah, I think we're sort of we're.
Hold on, repeat. Say that again, because you were breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now? Is that all right?
Yeah, you're fine. It sounds like you're maybe on Wi-Fi, and it's going in and out a little bit. Are you direct on an internet cable, or are you on Wi-Fi?
Or on Wi-Fi, yeah.
Okay, so just that last minute or so.
Yeah, so we, at this point in time, I think, we've kind of got an eye on the future of, how it's going to be received or responded to. I mean, we kind of expected, I guess, that it will get big enough eventually that it might attract some attention from those kinds of entities. And at that point, we want to be anticipating that and not simply reacting to it. But I think that question is partly one for Aimee. And the fact is that Truth is a skin on the Mighty Networks platform, so we're on their technology. So I guess that's an issue that they have to also deal with.
Oh, what does that mean? I don't understand what you're saying about that. That they have to deal with what?
Well, Mighty Networks is kind of like the host technology of Truth. So where Truth kind of rests on that, on their software, if you like.
Is that like saying that it's a different issue than that they're your server, right? It's the software itself. I don't mean to be directing this into the tech area. I mean, maybe we can hope Aimee gets back in time to say something, but it seems like it would be a good thing to anticipate, like you say.
Yeah.
So that whatever you guys have to set up for security would be done.
Yeah, exactly. And we're not oblivious to the fact that that's definitely relevant and needs to be thought about. And
how are you just letting it organically grow, or are you doing things to let people know you exist?
Well, at the moment we ironically use Facebook to help get the word out. So
might as well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
But you lost one page, but you still have access through other pages, right?
Well, we still have our personal profiles at this point. So we use them as much as we can to help kind of like put it out there in front of people and let them know that there is this place where they won't be censored and hidden by algorithms and shadow banned and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, neat. And what about other big platforms, YouTube and stuff like that? Are you still on those or not?
We've had YouTube account for a few years. I can't say that we've really fed much energy into it. I'd rather now put my attention towards the alternatives to YouTube. Right. So like Real Video or BitChute, that's where we'll be uploading things to.
Okay. So do you have a channel on Real.video at this point?
I'm about to create one.
Okay, good. So people can watch for that. So how did it go was Truth the first part of this project and then other parts of Global Freedom Movement followed that, or what was the sequence?
Global Freedom Movement was created about 4.5 years ago, and we've run that ever since as a kind of activist news outlet and a community building kind of outlet as well, or portal. And so Truth is a recent creation because, as we said, we got deleted by Facebook in June, and that our response to that was to create an alternative social network, which was Truth.
Okay, so if that was a recent part, what was the beginning of Global Freedom Movement? What did you do before Truth?
All of the stuff we were talking about, like venturing out into the outback and seeing the apartheid state in Australia's backyard, that was where it all started. Yeah.
Okay, so it was like the exploration and the research and stuff like that. But once you knew about the problem, what did you create besides the Truth part of it? Because you've got other things going on, right?
The third, I guess we've got like kind of a trinity happening in a way. We've got Global Freedom Movement was the beginning, and then we've done the social network now, which is Truth, which we're obviously very early days, so we're still building momentum with it. And the third aspect is actually the Truthiversity. So it's kind of like, you have to do things when you have big ideas and projects. You can't force things; they have to happen in their own time. So the Truthiversity is like, that was the second pillar after GFM was created, and that was going to be our online university education portal, where it was like a container for a real like educational setting where we have classes and documentary style teaching and that kind of stuff.
That is actually super exciting. I think education is really a central key to the whole change that you want to make. So how is that being put together? I mean, why don't you really introduce people to, is it called Truth University or what's it called?
It's probably going to be, it started out as Global Freedom University, and I nicknamed it Truthiversity. So we'll probably end up, because we created Truth, TROOTH, we'll probably end up calling it the Truthiversity, TROO. And this has been in the works for quite a while. We've sort of been, we had a little bit of a crowdfunder in January, I think it was January 2016, where we sort of raised a little bit of money to work towards it. And we've basically had a very challenging last 2 years where we haven't been able to do the kind of work on it we would have liked to have done. So there's this seminal...
Is that for lack of money or lack of time or both?
Yeah, lack of money has been the real issue fundamentally, yeah.
Okay.
So it's created a difficult living situation, which has made it virtually impossible to continue working on that side of things. So we've done what we can, and the truth, yeah, it's gone on the back burner a little bit, but that's where we're going.
Okay, and so if you had a bunch of money, what would you be doing with the university?
We'd probably be able to launch it quite quickly. We'd be building a lot of content. We've already got quite a bit of content already. It's just a matter of polishing it off and finishing and editing and launching the thing, really. And to do that, we've needed somewhere. We haven't had anywhere stable to live. And I don't know if you've ever had to, move around a lot. You probably know how difficult it is to work properly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit more possible now because wherever you are physically, if it's got internet access, you can do something, right? But it's still very distracting. So how does raising the necessary money fit into the whole project? What ways are you trying to do that?
At the moment, I mean, we've taken a little bit of a tangential turn in the sense that we've created something separate on the side, which is actually like a separate online project that does generate some cash flow for us, which has only been in the last 2 months. So it's kind of come into existence at the same time as Truth, but it's not connected to Truth. That's just the timeline.
Is that something we should explain to people so they can support that, or what do you think?
It's really, I don't know if it is the kind of thing that we can. I think the short answer there is probably not so much.
Okay.
Yeah. It is. It's an online business, so that it has started to generate.
If it is good, if it's successful enough, you can put that money into the Truth Project and the university project and stuff.
Yeah, at the moment that's our plan. That's what we're doing. So it's generated the first kind of actual revenue that we've basically ever had in the last couple of months. We've done that.
Good.
So we've turned a corner. So it looks like we'll be able to fund ourselves moving forward.
Right, and it's nice to be not totally dependent on outside sources too.
Yeah, exactly. We're self-sufficient, so we control everything. No one's pulling strings or having hidden agendas or anything.
Exactly. Well, but if people do have no strings attached money that they want to help with, do you have a place for them to do that? A mechanism?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people can donate. We can accept donations, no problems via the website. globalfreedommovement.org, or if people email us, we can arrange it. Definitely, it's definitely welcome. Okay.
And do you want to give out an email address?
You can get us at team@globalfreedommovement.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aimee or myself will respond. We're pretty responsive. We're pretty ever present.
Right. So how is your time split up now? Given that you're still under stress for not having the resources that you'd like to have?
It's split. I guess it's split between running this other project, this online business that actually is now just starting to fund us, which is, we've really poured a lot of energy and effort into that to get it up and running and make it work.
Right.
So that's taken us, in a way, it's kind of like, a detour. It's taken us away from the kind of writing and researching we'd like to be doing. But in the long run, it's keeping us independent. So you do what you have to, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So if you had to guess a time frame now where it'll really could put enough money in so that you could start doing more of what you want, is it like a year away, or what do you think?
I think, it's definitely less than a year. It's less than a year. Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. If people go to the Truth platform now, what's the exact URL? What's the address for it?
It's www.truth.network. Truth.network.
Okay. Truth. And right now, in its current state of development, what's there that people can use?
The platform, the social platform, is fully functional. They can get in there. They can use it in a similar way to Facebook. They can post, or they can jump in and create a group and curate a group, build a community inside there with us, post into topics, all that kind of stuff. A lot of very similar features.
Okay. So almost everything that you could do on Facebook, you can do on Truth Now, right?
It is very similar. I think it's going to continue to improve and develop as well. So, yeah, there are some elements that we've gotten used to in Facebook that we would like to incorporate a little bit of, and we'll probably do that over time, I guess.
Right. So, but right at the moment, they can upload videos and that sort of thing?
Uploading videos, not so much. That's not a current option so much. We can organize lives as the hosts. Aimee and I can do lives, and we can bring people in for live interviews, and we're going to be doing a lot of live interviews coming up over the coming weeks.
Okay.
So that's something that's really, I think, gonna. It's just the container of it really lends itself to that kind of a connection, and you can't really do it on Facebook in the same way. It doesn't really work because there's just way too much noise. So yeah, I mean, we're really going to be generating a lot of buzz and activity in there in the coming days.
So the lives that you're talking about, live streaming, right, is you having like a little live stream show, and then you have other people come on it with you?
Yeah, we can do that.
Is that how it works? So if somebody really wanted to be a guest, they could email you about that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then eventually, do you think there will come a time when you'll set it up so that the members can do live streams too?
I'd like to see that happen. Yeah, I'm not sure when, but
okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
That's one of the attractions of Facebook, I think, right?
Yeah, for some
people,
one
that they like to take away a lot, but when it's working,
it's really handy to have that function. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so trying to think of anything. Well, do you want to say more what the university is going toward? Because I don't think we really explained what kind of. I mean, I know it's not totally built yet, but I'm sure the vision of it is built in your mind, right?
Yeah, we know what we're doing. We know what we want to do. It's been simmering away for a couple of years now. So,
what's it gonna look like when it's built?
We have described it as, what have we described it as? It's going to have elements of kind of, what did we say? Netflix meets YouTube meets Facebook, something along the lines of, it's still going to be a community, but it's going to be an interactive, like multimedia kind of a school where people will have access to video, audio, documents, written articles, papers, and it's going to be. What was I going to say?
Well, I just wondered if it's going to have classes, because people think of school having classes in different subjects. Is that going to kind of be part of it or not?
I think so. I think it's definitely going to be part of it for sure, because we want that the human connection and that element to it where people can jump in and have a live kind of interaction, and as well as the pre-recorded videos. Which
it could be recorded classes too, yeah. Yeah,
and we can record. So, I mean, we're not very, it's pretty unlimited what we can do in there. Like, it's kind of like going to be a playground for awesome learning.
Right, and if people wanted to be, you're probably going to want to connect with people who would be good teachers in that, I would assume, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So if somebody is a really outstanding teacher of something, seems to me like they could talk to you about what to do with that.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely open to people contacting us and saying, hey, here's what I do, here's some of my work, check it out, and we can take it from there, kind of thing. Definitely.
Okay, all right. And there's something about the school posted now, right, even though it's not totally ready?
We did have an article or page on the website. I'm not sure if it's still there at the moment.
Seems to me I saw something on it, when I went to the website.
There could well be.
Okay. What do you want to leave people with an understanding of, the whole point of this, and how would you like to see them change what they're doing in their life, or they're at? Oh, I got to ask you something too. Before the absolute final wrap up of that, one of the problems that I would imagine that you would have thought about is the fact that, like, at least in America, it's something like 90% of the people here hate what they do all day for their job. That's like a clue of a big issue, because you don't really want to have people's minds destroyed, not just by school, but what they do after school, which is school prepares them to go work at a job they hate, to retire after their body's destroyed by modern medicine and modern food and everything. That's not really an ideal scenario to look forward to, right? So have you gotten fairly deep into looking at that and seeing how it could be improved?
Oh man, that's a huge one. I mean, Aimee and I do what we are passionate about, and one of the things about the way that we've structured the world at the moment, as you're saying, is that it's just an environment that makes it very challenging to do what is meaningful to you and still be paid for it and be able to live properly. Right. It's a huge problem. So
yeah,
we have
I really think we need to address it, somehow. I don't mean figure it out totally right this minute, but I just think we're going to have to deal with that, because most people are doing stuff they hate because they have to get money to live. And I don't think, this is why they fall for stuff like communism and thinking, oh, we're going to have utopia where nobody has to do anything they don't want. Everybody's just given free money and stuff. And then they end up in slavery and starvation. But it doesn't mean that there's no answer. I think part of it is that the free market is a great system because it's natural when you have your own motivation, because you get to keep what you create. But we don't have that in America. Most of the countries are controlled by central banks, and they siphon off almost everything everybody creates. And people don't connect what they see of it, which is the inflation and the loss of value in money, resulting in everybody having to work 80 hours a day and the kids being handed over to the government while they all do that. But the central bank is seen as a source of making all this abundance available. It's doing the opposite. So if you could, I don't think it's necessary to get rid of the money system, but in the American Constitution, it says that the money has to be gold and silver, because if you keep it to that, inflation's impossible. Yep. Money can't ever lose value, and the system has to get away from that in order to enslave everybody by taking all the value out of the money. We're actually going to be talking to G. Edward Griffin tomorrow on a show who's written a book called Creature from Jekyll Island. You might have heard of that. But I don't have an answer to it yet, but I think our creativity is really needed.
Yeah, and if we could, like you're saying about the banking system, I think that's a really fundamental part of that equation as to why people end up doing things they really don't want to do. Is because, like you say, the banks create a situation where money is devalued more and more and more, and we end up having to work harder and harder and harder, and it creates this really competitive, economic environment where people, it's like, we don't have the time and space to be creative, and we can't get rewarded adequately for being creative, like musicians or poets or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we go off into the meat grinder, and it's like...
And then people get deceived and think that the problem is free market capitalism, that really the government should be giving everybody the free money and that solves everything. And they don't understand,
It's not. It's debt-based banking, really, that's the problem. And,
Yeah, we've had it in America since 1913. And in that time, the money has lost about 99% of its value for a dollar. It's just coincidence, of course,
Yeah.
But, because it's being issued out of nothing.
Yeah.
And the power structure obviously agrees with that, because there was a guy who came up in America, I think, a few years ago, Bernard von Nothaus. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he had a system of, he used to run the mint in Hawaii, so he knew how to do that. And he designed a silver coin and was going to make that go everywhere. And the government agreed that was a great idea, so he was arrested and sent to prison and everything, showing that, really was good. But if there's a way to do that without getting assassinated or put in prison, That could be really useful.
Yeah, and it would open up our creativity because we wouldn't have to work mind-numbing, pointless jobs.
No, the money would have value. You earn a modest amount of money, you can buy a house and do the things that used to be possible.
Exactly. And you know, the emotional toxicity that results from, like in the collective field, that comes about as a result of millions and millions of people doing things that are soul destroying every day.
Yeah. And in fact, most of the good jobs are now not just in soul destroying, they're in world destroying.
Yeah.
I mean, I've really looked and most of the good, high paying, high benefit type jobs are helping some part of the structure that's destroying humanity and the biosphere.
They are, and
they pay really well.
They pay well. How do you? That's it. Like human innovation and human creativity, I think is the answer there, because there's no simple answer. But the human collective organism will, through its creativity, keep throwing up different innovations and ideas and concepts and products that will allow us to withdraw time and energy from the system and do things differently and spend our time differently. And that's not something we can wave a magic wand. Unfortunately, it's gonna take time.
Yeah. I mean, we have a president in the U.S. now who is amazing. He's outside the power structure, so they all want to kill him. And the media is planning to get somebody to kill him soon. And that's what the censorship is leading up to. But even he, great because of his motivation, that he's there because he wants to help the country. He doesn't seem to have the understanding that most of the big corporations that are running things are suicidal for the country and the planet. You know, he's got the idea that prosperity is great, and he's doing wonderful things with that for the country. But the prosperity is being generated by companies that are involved in killing life on the planet.
Yeah.
So there's a few details that are missing there.
And I think that it's a good thing to point out as well, because you know, a lot of people have really jumped on the trashing and bashing Trump bandwagon, and right. it's unreasonable and it's irrational to expect that Donald Trump is going to come in and have this amazing global, you know, connected awareness like you know we have, but you know, he doesn't have that background.
What makes him great is not that he's got all the organic understanding and that he knows to block Internet of Things and 5G and, you know, arrest the CEOs of those companies really for the stuff they've already done. It's not that he has the right understanding of that. It's that he gave up his comfortable life to try to save the country. That one thing is what makes him great, and that's what makes him feared by the power structure, because and that's why they want him dead, because if he were to find out about geoengineering, for example, he'd probably send the Air Force up there to stop it the next day.
I think so.
Whereas somebody who's in there because they are part of the system would say, great, how can I help?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what they're afraid of. He might find out.
Absolutely. And that's what, like you said before, he's surrounded by people trying to keep him in the dark. But even though that's the case, there are still cracks in the armor showing up, because he recently read Mike Adams' report on
that is a big deal. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that
50 pages or so.
Yeah. And
I don't think he's grasping it, because if he did, the day that he finished reading that, he should have moved on these big companies that are creating all the censorship. And he hasn't done that yet. So what people have a hard time understanding is that really good people like that and really intelligent people, it doesn't mean they comprehend everything.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of people with super high IQs are falling into the destruction, you know, paradigm, and they don't know it because they're too well educated. You know, they've gone to a business school like he has and learned that all these wonderful CEOs are just outstanding people, and so are all the heads of the military and everything. And I don't think, you know, very few people grasp the depth of corruption that has overtaken everything.
Yeah, it's so insidious and systemic that it takes years to unravel that. And, Donald Trump doesn't have those years of background research. He's a businessman.
No. The parts that he does get, he's doing incredible work against crushing pressure. But there's big blank spots in the understanding. And there was a circle around him that was preventing all of that information from getting in until recently. A couple of weeks ago, it was breached, and Mike's report got through. And one of the instrumental people that I don't want to mention by name right now because I want us to be in the air for a while is, the biggest, best news broadcaster in the world, as far as I'm concerned, that just got totally banned, was the reason it got through that circle. And it got to the president on Air Force One, and that's unforgivable. And I think that's why he's gone.
Yeah, right.
So Trump needs to, get shaken awake and act on that report.
Yeah, and I spoke to someone recently who's I've got a friend who's in the intelligence community, and he's quite well connected. He's got white hat friends, and he's got white hat friends connected to Trump. So what we get from those kinds of channels is probably the best information possible, like as far as outsiders go. And what he was telling me was that the system, there really is, the system is in trouble. The system's in trouble.
The repressive system, you mean?
That's right. Yeah, there are operatives all around, scattered into this system, who are all these white hats who are working actively to undermine it, and they're making an impact in the process. Yeah,
I would like to personally. What I would like is to find a contact that could somehow get information to Trump, not just about one issue, but about, look, this is how the dots connect.
Yeah. I'd love to send him a copy of one of David Icke's books or something.
Yeah, something like that. But I would like to talk to any of those people, if you ever meet a really good one, to put it concisely for him in 10 minutes. Because most of the, even the people really into the whole conspiracy theory understanding, they don't have any idea how deep it goes. And they also don't know the solutions in general. They're talking about undermining the structure and all that. There's much more that could be done. Yeah. And it's in levels of consciousness that people have forgotten about, but are practical and powerful. And if that was ever understood, even at a distance, I think the whole thing could be turned around. But it needs to be done soon, because this censorship program is meant to get rid of, I don't even want to say the president's name too much, because I know that is really programmed into the systems right now. But the censorship, if it's not fixed right away, it could get somebody really bad elected. And that would affect every country. Yeah. We don't need another, Clinton or Bush. No, I don't think the current president understands that fully. Because every day that it's allowed to stay in place means, they're really desperate to make sure they control the outcome of this election. And even Google, for example, is no longer a regular search engine. It's a tool for changing the election. Yeah. I don't know if I told you, but somebody told me, oh yeah, you type in idiot and it shows a picture of the current president. And wow. I said, no, that can't be true. And I tried it. It's true. Wow. I saw his picture come right up there. That's how they're using Google now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and they're figuring they could switch 60% of the votes by controlling the search engine. Because something like 80% of the searches go through Google. Yeah, wow. I'm staggered by how many people that are still using even Google Mail, like Gmail. There's so many other better things that we can use. So we need to just withdraw all our energy and attention from these giants and start funding or supporting something else. That would be a good thing for you guys to have articles on. We actually do. Do you? Like, what are the alternatives that people could right now be using?
Yeah, we do. There's an article on the website. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's about the alternatives to Google and, like Twitter and all these major, the monopolist entities. We've got to get away from them. Like, don't use Twitter, use Gab. Don't use Google, use DuckDuckGo. Don't use Gmail,
exactly.
use Proton Mail.
Right. No, I totally agree. Everybody needs to find that out. Make the old systems irrelevant, and you don't have to do anything else, right?
Yeah, because we keep saying, like, we want a free world and we believe in freedom of speech, and everyone's still got a Gmail account and they're still supporting these entities that are actively suppressing us.
Yeah, and they don't say use a search engine. They say Google this or Google that.
Yeah. And that's the term. We got to get rid of that terminology, like the phrase "just Google it." No more. Web search it. Do a web search.
It's just harder to say. Just go DuckDuckGo that. That's the name they chose. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we've got to be vigilant. That's the thing. Like, all these major platforms have been co-opted if they weren't part of the system from the start, and now we just have to keep adjusting and be adaptive and say, okay, well, we've just found out that we can't use this now because that's part of the regime, so we go over here.
Yeah, exactly. Just stay open and don't assume that anything is the only way to do it.
Exactly. And, if we really care, like if we really are willing to put our money where our mouths are, we will take those steps and make the effort, because it's not hard to set up a Proton Mail account and not use Gmail. You're like, it's really easy to do these things. Right.
And there's at least a chance that those are actually somewhat secure, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, to my knowledge, it's fully secure and encrypted, so that's the best option.
And there's systems also, apps that you can get to use on your cell phone.
Yeah, like Wickr.me.
Like what? What's it called?
Wickr. Like, I think it's WICKR.
Oh, okay. And there's another one called Signal, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Signal is quite as legit as it is said to be. So Wickr is the only one that I'm sort of confident on. I do use Signal, but Wickr is one that my intelligence agency buddy has been.
Is that free also?
I believe so. Yeah.
WICKR.com.
I'm not sure about the actual URL, but if you type WICKR into a web search engine, you'll find it. Wickr.me. Look for Wickr.me.
Wickr.me?
Yeah, ME.
Two words.
One word or two. You'll find the program. Yeah.
Okay, neat. Yeah, I'd like to know about that.
Sorry to not be more specific.
No, that's good enough, because DuckDuckGo will have it somewhere. So after the whole discussion, I mean, people are feeling kind of overwhelmed, like they have no choices of what to do and they're locked into the system. From what you've learned from before you visited the outback places and everything, what can you tell people that maybe, gives them some hope of that they don't have to feel despairing about things at this point?
Well, I mean, as far as I can see, more and more people are starting to actually give a damn.
Yeah, I think
and you're probably seeing it too yourself. Like, as long as that's happening, as long as people are waking up and saying, hey, whoa, this is not right, like, let's do something else. Let's not allow these corrupt psychopaths, these child traffickers, these child molesters to keep running the show. More and more people are actually looking at alternatives now, because the censorship program's gotten so overt and over the top. It's actually waking people up, which is kind of an awesome irony.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So I'm definitely not, if I didn't believe that we could actually win this thing and start down the road to peace and prosperity, I wouldn't be doing this thing. Like, I wouldn't be wearing the GFM t-shirt. I wouldn't be creating truth and doing all this stuff. Like, we are definitely in a situation where the power structure is getting more and more desperate and scared, and that tells you that we're all doing something right.
Yeah, I completely agree. And speaking of your t-shirt, is that something people could get if they wanted to? Not yours in particular, but a t-shirt like that.
You can have mine. we were going to actually let people know how to get these, and when we weren't. This was actually a test model, this one, so we weren't quite happy with the quality that it came out from this particular company, so we're going to get it sorted out, and then when we sort out the quality, kind of quality we want, we'll let people know, how to get it.
Okay. And so if they're already on Truth as the social media platform, they'll be able to see when that's ready, I guess.
Yeah, and if they're in Truth, or if they're on, if they go and sign up to our mailing list, but yeah, if they're in Truth, we'll end up with their email anyway. So we'll be in contact then, and it makes it easy, to keep people in the loop that way.
Yeah. Okay. And your email list is a sign up right on the front page when they get in there, so they could.
Yeah, you can go. That's part of the sign up process for Truth, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Good. So they'll get all the announcements.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. That sounds great. Well, I want to stay in touch as you guys get going. And as you say, it won't be long until you've got your funds making it possible to grow a lot faster. And we can keep letting people know about it. So let's stay in touch, and we'll see what happens next. So we'll say goodbye in the break, and give me a little while here, and we'll be back in touch.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it.
Okay. Talk to you soon, Brendan. Okay, so that was Brandon Murphy, and for a little while, Aimee Devlin, creators of the Global Freedom Movement and the Truth social media platform. And I think you go to truth.network to join. And I really want us to support movements like that are coming from people with such good motivations, and enough of these initially small little efforts will totally transform what's going on the planet. And so I want to give them as much positive support as possible, and we will keep doing these live streams as long as we're allowed to, and I'll try to get better at the phrases that I use and the keywords that I use and things like that, so we don't upset our computer bosses that are watching us. I want to still talk about all the issues that are going on at the moment, but it's going to be an advantage if we can somehow not disappear right away. If we do, that's okay. Just watch for us on real.video, which is growing very quickly. That is our friend Mike's great new replacement for YouTube, real.video, and there are a lot of other ones like that too that are going to be coming up more and more as the censorship gets more and more intense. So we all just have to support each other, realize that the division that's being sown by the leaders is all fake. It's just to keep us busy with the distraction while they do things that are not positive. And if we don't fall for that, then it's much harder to keep everybody hypnotized. And it seems like a good first step. Also, we're going to be posting more and more of the free videos on YouTube, Facebook, Open Source Truth, and Real Video, all those different platforms. If you can't find us and things get, harder to keep up on some of those platforms, go to lostartsradio.com, and we'll have notices up there of where else to find us. But for the moment, we're on all those platforms and using Periscope as well. And then on Saturday afternoon, we've got the program that is a little review of some of the most critical things that happened during the week in the news and what their significance is and what likely they are saying about what's coming next. So join us for that if you want to. It's getting a lot of interest. It's turning out to be a pretty good show. And after that, there's a half-hour break after that show ends on Saturday. And it starts 4:30 p.m. Pacific and 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and it runs for an hour. And then there's a half-hour break. And then the Planetary Healing Club meets, and that's a private forum, and you can get into that. That's for people that are ready to start putting these things into practice and actually doing the work on yourself. It's not a spectator-type entertainment group. It's like mutual support for people that are ready to really start changing their experience of life completely in a good way. And if you're up to that and brave and ready to do some things that will make you feel a whole lot better all the time, then I'm inviting you to do that. And you can find out about it at lostartsradio.com/club. And if it looks good for you, try it out. There's no obligation to stay. And if you do it, I'll meet you live every Saturday evening, and we'll do some really amazing stuff. So thanks for being with us. I'm glad you got to meet Brandon and Aimee. There's a lot of great people starting new projects like that. We want to support them and create a better overall situation for ourselves and all the kids that are counting on us to do that. So thanks for caring about these things. I really appreciate it. Thanks for letting me spend some time with you, and we'll see you next time.